This episode of the HooperCast is brought to you by Letterboxd. Right now, listeners of our show have the chance to win a free 1-year pro account upgrade on Letterboxd. For those of you who don't know, Letterboxd is a social network for film lovers that allows you to track, rate, and review the films you watch. You can follow other members to get recommendations. You can publish lists of films like your top 10 for the year and a lot more. Letterboxd is free to use. There's no subscription fee, but a pro account is going to provide you with additional features such as a customized summary of your past year's viewing. If you already have an account, then you get a 1-year extension free. If you want to enter, all you have to do is listen to our show and we will read the code word at random. Then you're going to send us an email at hoopercast@gmail.com, enter the code word in the subject line of the email, and make sure you include your Letterboxd username. The winner will be selected during the last show of each month. You can also follow our show on Letterboxd. Just search HooperCast. That's letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com, letterboxd.com. Oh, you're damn right, everybody. Ow. Oh. I'm a little quieter tonight. Hello, everybody. It's the HooperCast.
It is.
Yes. It is I, Connor. It is he, Dustin. And this is we, the HooperCast. It is Friday, of course. Friday should be June the 5th. That is,
yes.
July the 5th.
July.
That is if you are watching on Patreon. If you're not, you're on YouTube, and it is the 12th or later. So if you're on YouTube, then thank you for subscribing to the channel. There is an earlier, fuller version of this episode on patreon.com/HooperCast if you want to access that. We'll talk about that later in the show. Or, of course, you're probably just listening on iTunes, in which case, thanks, guys. There's a video version of the show on YouTube. And then on YouTube, we'll direct you to Patreon, and the cycle will just continue.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Anyway, we are here, Dustin, this week.
Yes, we are here
to talk about a couple movies that we saw. Mine I did not see recently. I don't know about you.
No, it's been a little while. This is one I've sort of had in storage for a while. So,
well, let's talk about it now. Of course, now is the time to discuss things like this. What did you see, Dustin?
So I saw a little film called Wonder, Wonder, not Wander, and it's a quaint little film. It stars Owen Wilson, Julia Roberts, and Jacob Tremblay, who I'm a big fan of from Room, and
that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I saw.
Oh, I thought you were.
I can review it for sure. I thought you were just asking like, what did you see?
No. You go ahead.
Say, here's what I saw.
I thought that was your review. I was like, oh, cool, you saw it.
Yeah, that's it. I saw it.
Not a good sign.
No recommendations at all. No. So Wonder is a little movie. It actually came out last year, so 2017. And it's directed by a guy named Steven Chbosky, who did Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Okay.
So, which is, I think he's done a couple other things, but that's like his thing.
Yeah.
This movie is about, so Jacob Tremblay plays a young boy who suffers from, let me see if I can pull it up. He has some facial deformities. I don't know if they ever say what exactly it is that he has.
Yeah, I can't find anything specific about it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, he has some facial deformities, and he has been homeschooled, and now he's moving into public school. And his mom, of course, is a little bit worried about this. His dad, Owen Wilson, is a little more like, "Oh wow, he's going to public school.
That's cool. Yeah, he's gonna meet some people. Wow,
ka-chow."
Yeah,
and
ka-chow.
and so So, and then he's got an older sister who's really protective of him, and all these little things. So it's a lot about their family dynamic, and it's a lot about him sort of struggling through school, making friends, and that sort of thing. It's a good family movie. I think it's got great, kind of messages for kids on teaching them not to judge a book by its cover, to make friends not based on appearance but rather character. So it's a lot of really good lessons, and the family dynamic I think is really strong. I think they come across as an actual family. And yeah, there's some really great, really sweet moments in this film. It's a little bit strange because it, in a way, defies the 3-act structure, which I think, because the film is based on a book, so and I think the book probably makes better use of this than the film does. But it changes point of view characters several times throughout the film. So you have sort of like a vignette, right, where this is Jacob Tremblay's character, and then now we're going to see sort of his older sister's story, and now we're going to see his mom's story, and I can't even remember if it's in actual like thirds, like those are the 3 characters. I think there's actually a 4th character that gets a story. So nevertheless, it's broken apart, and then the stories kind of all intersect in weird ways. So even when it changes point of view character to, say, the older sister, you're still seeing a continuation of the story of Augie, that's Jacob Tremblay's character. You're still seeing that storyline progress. You're just now seeing it through a different set of eyes. And it makes sense that you would write a book that way. I think it's a little less effective with the film. I tend to prefer a film that has a static point of view character. Like, okay,
Agreed.
we're gonna see this through Augie's eyes, and let's stay there. But I understand that, in the book you have these subplots where you've got the story of the older sister and her best friend, and how her best friend went to summer camp and came back a different person. So now the older sister feels isolated because her best friend is no longer her best friend. Her best friend is like trying to be popular and all this kind of stuff. And so all of this probably works really well in the context of the book, and it's not uninteresting here, but it kind of distracts from the focus of the film, which of course should be and is the Augie character, and I think it's a little bit of a detriment to it, but it doesn't ruin it. I've seen examples that are worse. And so this isn't a huge offender, but I think for my personal taste, I would have preferred to stick with one point of view character. And I think Augie should have been that character. And then we can get to know and see these other subplots, but see them through his eyes rather than see them through anyone else's. And I think it still would have worked, and I think it still would have provided us an avenue to see his older sister's character progression and his mother's character progression, because I think again, he's so involved in all these other people's stories that to see it through his eyes, I think it would have worked. It's not like you would have had to do a huge major rewrite in order for that to have happened, because he's there. So I think, why not just stick with him? So I guess ultimately that pulls the film down a little bit for me. But it is a tender film that I think, people will enjoy. I have a soft spot, going all the way back to, maybe my childhood watching True Confessions. I have a soft spot for stories about people that face big challenges due to physical or mental limitations. Forrest Gump, the list goes on, but I think, I've got a soft spot for those kind of movies. So this was right up my alley. Again, I think the structure kind of brings it down a little bit, but it's a fine movie, and I think it's a great family movie. So if you're looking for something to turn on with the family, or you're looking for something for a date night, this is a non-offensive, sweet little story. To some it may be a little too saccharine. To me, it's not. But I think that's mostly because it's a kids movie at the end of the day, and I don't think there's anything wrong with a saccharine kids movie. So would I recommend this? Yeah, I think I would. I think again, I would recommend it more for like a date night or for a family gathering kind of movie. If you're looking to just watch something in your free time, I would tend to go with something a little more, maybe a little more hearty, something you're going to get a little more meat out of than this. But for a date night, just something to pop on that is going to make you feel good and give you the warm and fuzzies. This will do the trick. So on our scale, I'd say it's fine. I think again, my major nitpick is that structure, but I will say it's well performed. Jacob Tremblay is probably the best kid actor out there today. Hooper, have you seen Room?
If I seen Room?
Yes.
Yes.
So Jacob Tremblay in that was phenomenal.
Yes.
And then there's this and there's that movie that's on Netflix now. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll watch that eventually. It's got like Kate Bosworth in it, where he plays like a kid who dreams things and the dreams come into reality. Anyway, the point is, I'm a big fan of Jacob Tremblay. I think he's a great actor. It's really only every once in a while that you see a kid that is truly talented and cute and fun to watch. You think back and you've got like your Haley Joel Osments or your Ron Howards even, and I think Jacob Tremblay falls into that category, and I think he'll become one of those actors that sticks around. I hope he doesn't fall prey to the system, but I also think of like Haley Steinfeld and True Grit. These are like kids that like steal the movies they're in, and he certainly does that here. Julia Roberts does a really great job. Owen Wilson's passable. He's really not in the movie very much, but he does a good job with what he's given, and again, he's believable as a dad to this kid. The chemistry's there. I believe it. So I think all in all, solid performances, sweet story makes it a reason why I would recommend it, even if there's not really meat for a film buff to chew on here. So yeah, that's generally that's Wonder, this is not available on any sort of streaming service, so you will have to rent this at Redbox or pick it up at the library or something. So that's another little added factor that you have to consider. You're gonna have to pay for it or wait for it, and it may not be quite worth it if you put too much time into it. So just something to consider. But yeah, I think for a date night, this would be a great little piece.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems pretty feel good, pretty safe movie to watch with a loved one.
Right, and it's not offensive. It's not like it's a stupid movie or like you're like, oh, these characters are just whatever. Because after all, it's a kids movie, so you're not getting anything too deep. You're not worried too much about the psychology of the characters, right, or whether or not it's realistic that so and so would perform in this behavior. It's all pretty shallow, but just deep enough to kind of get your feet wet.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So what you got for me, Hooper?
I saw Inside Llewyn Davis.
Okay.
God, months ago now. But I saw this on Amazon Prime. This is a 2013 film. This is directed by the Coen brothers, written by the Coen brothers, starring Oscar Isaac, Carey Mulligan, John Goodwin, and peppered in there, Justin Timberlake, Adam Driver, Garrett Hedlund. A few people you might recognize. Well, it's they're bit roles.
Right. Sure.
It's a little bit of a road movie in that sort of sense, even though it does take place mostly in New York. It's 1961, and it is
Okay.
the folk music scene of New York, of Greenwich Village.
Okay.
Whatever that means. I guess that's that's just what the thing he says on IMDb. But I guess that's the area of New York where music was happening. I don't know anything about history or the history of music, but Greenwich Village, 1961. For those of you who that means something to, it's that period. So there's that. The movie essentially follows this artist, Llewyn Davis, who used to be part of a duo. I can't remember now if his partner, he's now in the area of his career after being part of like a successful singing team. And he's struggling a little bit as a solo artist. And so the movie is essentially about him struggling. I'm not going to say too much more about it because it's one of those films where it might end the way you think it's going to end. It might not end the way you think it's going to end. It just depends on what you think you're going to get out of this film. This is a Coen Brothers film, so I wasn't sure what I was looking for.
Sure.
I came for the Coen Brothers. Oscar Isaac is really good in the film. It's a really good portrait, sort of slice of life and slice of history of showing us an artist who's suffering for his art, which is always kind of fascinating to watch, and could be inspiring for someone to watch. Except not here, because it asks us, or it has us ask ourselves if we might put ourselves through the same, I guess, for lack of a better word, misery. Because his career, his chosen lifestyle costs him a good bit in his personal relationships. He's very focused. He's so focused on surviving. He's essentially homeless. He has to sleep at people's houses a couple nights at a time. The same kind of cycle of friends who are, some of whom are like, he's good company. Some of whom are just amused by him as like, oh, this is like our token music friend. He stays here and it makes us seem hip, so we let him stay here sometimes. And some people who are just sick of having him on the couch and wondering when he's going to get his life together or move on and get like a real job, and he's so focused on surviving that he's kind of a dick to everybody who doesn't seem to enjoy his art. And hold on a second. Hey, Bo, you need to go to bed. Go to bed. Okay? Good night. My daughter. Speaking of being a dick. He's kind of a jerk to everyone who doesn't seem to enjoy his music in a way. Sort of in like the self-righteous, like, you don't understand it kind of way, but in, a little more subtle than that. So yeah, it sort of has you ask yourself if you would go through the same thing. And my answer is I wouldn't. Like, especially after watching this film, because, this is sort of where I take like a personal sort of take on this movie. In 2011, when we graduated college, I was faced with a very early form of this question, which was like, am I gonna like try and get a job in film in some major city, or attempt to at least, or would I go home and sort of pursue this relationship with my then girlfriend, to sort of focus on that, where was I going to put my emphasis on in my personal life or in my career? And so I chose my personal life, and, now we're married and we have 2 children, one of which won't freaking go to bed, so it's a fine film, but I wouldn't say I enjoyed watching it. And maybe that's the point. I don't know. This is sort of where I get to like where I'm like, okay, because maybe that's the point of the film. Like, it's not super happy or anything, but I'll say this: being as frustrated as Llewyn is not an enjoyable experience, and for me, it doesn't pay off. And that's not why I watch movies. So I gave Inside Llewyn Davis a 2.5 star. I I mean, it didn't piss me off or anything, but I wouldn't even go so far as to say it's fine, because it's one of those where it's like, oh, so after I watched that, I didn't sort of feel like I spent my time well. And I guess because the film is kind of slow in a lot of areas. There's a lot of dead space, as there tends to be in Coen Brothers films. And if you're really not connected or invested in what the characters are doing, you're sort of just spending the film waiting for him to quit. And then, you're not really getting what you want at the end of the film. For me, there was no realization of the character like, oh, cool. Like, I got it. Cool journey. I was just like, you should quit, like, the whole time. And every time he does it, I'm like, why am I watching you? Like, right. Like, I felt like, so that's kind of how I felt. So, that's really just my take. Other people might feel very differently about Inside Llewyn Davis. I can't remember what it had on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it was among the higher reviews of, it's got a 93. Seriously?
Oh, wow.
Oh, come on.
Let me ask you this. How do you feel about the other Coen Brothers films?
It says smart, funny, and profoundly melancholy. That doesn't mean good.
Right.
That means kind of miserable. Artfully miserable is what I would call this film. Sorry, how do I feel about the other Coen Brothers films?
Yeah.
Let's do a speed round real quick. Just throw me some titles. I'll tell you whether or not I liked them.
Okay, hold on. Let me pull up a list. I mean, I can do it off the top of my head, but I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, hold up.
Yeah, I've seen Miller's Crossing. I thought that was kind of boring.
Okay.
So I wouldn't watch it.
Did you see Raising Arizona?
I've seen Raising Arizona a long time ago, but I remember liking Raising Arizona. That one's funny. That one's got a lot more going on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Barton Fink?
I haven't seen Barton Fink yet.
Okay. I haven't either. Have you seen Fargo?
Oh, yeah. Fargo's great. Fargo's classic.
Big Lebowski?
Love the Big Lebowski.
Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Brother, Where Art Thou's good. It's been a while, but that one's got a lot more going on. That one's a little bit more. That one's kind of better shot. That one's better paced, I think.
Sure.
And the music is better. There's a lot more music in that film. Oddly, this film is about musicians, and there's not all the music in here is melancholy and sad. And the music in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is a little bit more, I don't know, upbeat, I guess, folksy.
Gotcha.
I'll get in. This is also folksy, but this is like A Brother Where Art Thou is like bluegrassy, folksy. I like that.
Right.
It's more fun to listen to. There's harmony.
Right. True.
Yeah.
Did you see The Man Who Wasn't There?
I've not seen that.
The Lady Killers.
No.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. That one's been a while too. I need to rewatch it. My impression of it, at least up to this point, was that I really enjoyed the atmosphere. I really, really, really liked that movie until the third act, and then I really fell off. It was dissatisfying. But again, my opinion may have matured with that film now that I've aged, so I need to give that another look.
Burn After Reading.
Burn After Reading was fine.
Yeah. True Grit.
I like True Grit a good bit. I like it a lot.
Did you see Hail Caesar?
I did see Hail Caesar. I didn't really like that one. The one, yeah.
I gotcha. Now I know I left out a few, but just going backwards, like True Grit for me, I love True Grit. I think it's a great story. I think they do a great job with that. Burn After Reading, I think is largely forgettable. I remember just Brad Pitt like chewing scenery, and that's about it. No Country for Old Men, I'm right there with you. I think it's a great movie until that third act. And I don't know if it's just a general lack of resolution from some of the storylines, or the fact that it's meant to be a little more nihilistic or
subversive.
But generally speaking, I'm not a fan of that movie. But then again, like if you put on that first two acts, I'm gonna be like, man, this is so good.
I know.
And that's exactly what happens every time I watch it. I'm like, oh, I love this movie.
I can't believe I didn't like this.
Yeah, exactly. And then it ends, and I'm like, oh yeah, now I remember. The Man Who Wasn't There, I thought was really good. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? It's one of those weird movies where it's like I really love it, and then like I watch it and I'm like, that was good. Like it wasn't I don't love it. It was good. And then like 3 weeks pass and I'm like, man, I love that movie. And then I watched it again and it's like the same cycle. It's like, it was good. I don't know why I loved it.
Right.
And then The Big Lebowski, I love The Big Lebowski. A great movie. Fargo, also really good. I enjoy that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any of their movies before Fargo.
My favorite of their movies is still The Big Lebowski, because that's got everything that they do best. It has a really interesting story. It has really interesting characters, great performances, memorable, iconic characters, great performances, great cinematography, great soundtrack, and just great direction.
Yeah.
The Big Lebowski has it all for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think The Big Lebowski's probably their most memorable movie.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably their most universally liked film, and I think for good reason. I still like True Grit a lot. Maybe that's just because it's more of like a traditional movie from them.
Yeah, it is pretty traditional.
But I like that a lot. So yeah, but I think those two are my favorite movies, and I do like Oh Brother, but again, I think if I watched it again, I'd be like, this is just okay. But then like again, 3 weeks later, I'm gonna be like, man, I do love that movie. I think I just love the idea and the atmosphere and like the images in my head better than I do actually watching it. But all that is to say, like my reason for asking that was, I was going to see, like, if you didn't like any of the Coen brothers movies, then it would make sense because the Coen brothers are two filmmakers that I feel like their movies are very much their movies. You know what I mean? So it's understandable. Like if you didn't like one, you may not like any of them. But then again, you may love all of their movies, and I've certainly met people who love everything they touch. But yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the Coen brothers. I just their material. I don't know. Like they tend to like to deep dive into certain eras. So of course, like that period of the South. The evangelical South with the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," or the West. In particular, like with the True Grit, or now, of course, like the music scene in the 1960s. So clearly these periods of time or these areas of the country are really fascinating to them because they seem very interested in characters and lifestyles. So, I wouldn't be surprised if, well, who knows? I mean, there's a myriad of stories they could sort of take on that could be great. But so I tend to be on board with their films because they explore character in an interesting way. It's just their overall stories either grab me or they don't. And I it's not like I came in ready to hate Inside Llewyn Davis, but I definitely went into the movie going, I'm not inherently like looking forward to this film. I'm just watching it because their name is on it. But like, there's a reason I didn't see this 2013 film until like late last year, early this year.
Right.
Because it just didn't grab me.
Right, true.
So,
did you ever hear that story about why Bill Murray did Garfield? I know this is going to seem like out of left field.
Okay.
So Garfield was written by a guy named Joel Cohen, and evidently Bill Murray claims he signed on to that movie because he thought that was the Coen brothers.
Like Joel Cohen, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so, but it's Joel Cohen.
Why would you think that?
And the other is Joel Cohen, like with an H. And that's what Bill Murray claims. I don't know if that's true or not, but he claims he thought it was the Coen brothers, and so he signed on for it sight unseen.
I'm sure. Okay, not to like. I don't want to be the person who goes, I don't know, Dustin.
I don't know, Bill. I don't know if I trust you.
That sounds like a mistake. That sounds like a joke from him because he's probably tired of hearing the question, "Why'd you do Garfield?" Because I'm sure the answer is it was a quick paycheck,
money,
and I'm sure it could. Like, how bad could it be? And then after signing, he saw the script and was like, my God.
Well, and essentially like that, I could see the idea of like, it doesn't matter how bad it is. It's my voice.
Right.
It's not really going to kill my career because my career isn't as a voice actor.
Right. But then the only thing that could go wrong is if everyone constantly talks about how bad this film is.
Right.
Oh, wait.
Oh, they do.
Well,
so bad that it was mentioned in Zombieland.
Absolutely. Well, I was about to bring up a similar example. It sort of went the other way, but like, when with that 9 Lives movie, another cat voice when Kevin Spacey was that guy who got turned into a cat.
Yes.
It was like, oh, good Lord. Like, obviously this isn't going to hurt your career, but like, this is an especially terrible choice for you. And then of course, now he's in like huge trouble. So.
Right. Or like when Tim Allen did the Shaggy Dog, it's like,
Oh,
Why do I know why they do these movies? It's easy.
It's also like, but come on, what were you thinking? Like, there's a
Right.
certain amount of like schlock or easy money that we won't judge you for, like the Santa Claus.
Yeah,
But even then, the Santa Claus is a good movie. Like, I watched
Right.
that recently.
It's fine.
It's a good film.
Yeah.
I mean, now the sequels are like, okay, these are sort of schlocky, but at that point, I get it. Like, he's still good in that role, you know. So
Right.
I don't blame him. But with the Shaggy Dog, it's like, come on, guy, what are you doing? Like, Robert Downey Jr.'s in that film.
Yeah, he is.
But
That was pre-Iron Man.
But you understand why he's in it, because he's like, look, dude, I'm just happy to be working right now. Like,
Right, exactly.
I'm like 1 year sober. I just needed my name on some stuff, and they're like, we're gonna turn your character into a dog later in the film, and he's like, great,
Okay, fine.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'll do whatever. Yeah,
sure thing. What kind of dog? A Shar-Pei or a bulldog? I'll play it differently if you want.
Right. That's like Will Arnett just did that Show Dogs movie. Did you see the trailer for this thing or hear anything about it?
Yeah, I heard.
Oh, Lord.
I saw an especially bad clip that was particularly offensive given the climate in Hollywood right now.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, they actually pulled that scene from theaters.
Yes, I heard.
They re-edited the film. All right, we have to talk about it now. So for those of you who don't know, Show Dogs was a film. It came out just recently. Will Arnett is in it. He's like a cop, and he has a dog who's his partner, and the dog has to go undercover at I guess like a dog show, and so they have to train this cop dog who talks, of course, how to walk and look like a show dog. And one of the things that show dogs go through is that the judges will handle the dog's genitals.
Yeah, they just kind of walk up there and like put their hands all up on the dog and check them.
Why they do that, I don't know, but they do. And evidently a lot of like parents got really upset because there's like a whole sequence in the film where the dog has to learn that if somebody wants to touch you, you just have to like go to a happy place and let it happen.
You have to go somewhere else in your mind.
Yeah. And so like a lot of parents got like really upset, and they were like, this is teaching like a really bad message.
Yeah,
like
this
kids
is teaching kids to suck it up and deal with abuse when it happens to them.
Right. And so like it got big enough that the studio actually pulled the movie from theaters and issued a re-edit that does not include that scene at all. And it's like, number one, the screenwriter who wrote that, why? Secondly, right, and then secondly, the director who filmed it, and like Will Arnett and everybody.
That's
like,
the thing.
Like, nobody thought.
It's one of those things that's like, not only should this never have happened, but this got back. This got past hundreds of people. This is a film where like dogs talk. So there's animators doing lip flaps. There's dog trainers. There's actors. Everyone on the crew, all standards and practices, lawyers. Everyone's sitting there going, "This is fine."
That's
I don't know. And I'm sure someone brought up like, hey, maybe this is, they're dogs. That's fine. Dogs aren't being molested, just people, right? It's right. One, I can tell you, dogs get molested. Two, they're meant to be taken seriously as characters, so they're essentially allegories for people. And three, #MeToo. What the fuck? Who didn't think of this? And no one, everyone put their stamp on this and said this is fine. And then of course when it's not fine, everyone's like, oh god. And not to mention that scene should have been cut just because it wasn't funny.
Right. Well, the whole movie should be cut, but like they should have pulled the whole film from theaters and just issued like a film reel that says we're sorry.
Stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
God.
I just don't understand. Like I guess you could be so like caught up in like actually filming it that you're not thinking about it. But like when the dailies come in, like sit down and watch them and go, oh no,
wait a second, we can't do that.
We've done a bad thing here.
Yeah. Even though, like even outside of Me Too, just that scene in general, like. It's not really just the timing. It's not like timing makes it especially like egregious, but it's also like, but the essential lesson, if you will, is still in there. Like, oh, if this happens to you, just sort of get through it.
Just let it happen.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, not okay.
Not good.
Not good at all.
Okay. Real quick, I want to mention. So that's a good segue. Not really, but we're gonna make it a good segue into Letterboxd.
Letterboxd.
So if you're listening at the beginning of the show, you know that we are sort of partnering a promotion with Letterboxd to get a 12-month free upgrade or extension to Letterboxd Pro. I almost said Letterboxd again. God, I don't know what that deal is. It's probably it's the Pro that's screwing me up. But Letterboxd,
right.
Pros, Letterproxy. So yeah, if you would like to be eligible for that, then of course you can email us at hoopercast@gmail.com, send us the code word in the subject line, and give us your Letterboxd username so that we know who to pass on towards.
Yes.
The code word the code we're gonna make this a code phrase. All right, you ready for this?
Okay,
this is
I'm
gonna
ready.
be a double purpose. You ready? Here's the code phrase. Amelia, go to bed. Go to bed. Good night. Okay. Once again, the phrase is Amelia, go to bed. That is the code phrase this month for July. Because I couldn't think of anything until I turned around and she was standing right there, like the little boy from The Grudge, just standing in the doorway. God. Get out of my dreams! Oh my God. Anyway, email me with the phrase Amelia, go to bed, or go to bed. Just either of those things. You don't have to mention my child's name, and prefer you not, actually, now that I think about it. So just email us with the phrase go to bed in the subject line, username for Letterboxd, and get eligible to be picked. We'll pick the winner at the end of July. Or the beginning of August, whatever. Whenever we feel like it. I don't have to tell you when. Anyway, so we're going to say goodbye for this portion of the show for all the YouTube people. So if you're on YouTube right now and you notice that the time code's almost out, it's because the episode is almost over for you. It is not, however, over for the Patreon viewers. So if you want to be a part of that prestigious echelon of privileged folk, you can donate $1 and buy the rest of this episode on patreon.com/HooperCast. Well, there you go. It's pretty easy. Most of us have $1. Have $1.
Yeah.
And if you want to hear more of our show, go over there and just submit the $1, become a patron. It's we charge per video. We're not going to charge you per month. We're not going to charge you an exorbitant amount of money. It's just you can it's a la carte, baby. So patreon.com/HooperCast, $1 to get full episodes of the show. And plus, if you start doing that, you get early access. You can go over there and decide that, because if you had done that already, you'd have gotten this episode last week, but you're getting it this week. Yep. Or, if you're really behind like me on your YouTube watch laters, it might be 2 weeks from now. We might have already picked the Letterboxd winner for July. Maybe it's August now, and you're just sort of, you just got out of prison or something, and you're watching these videos, way later. It's like, okay, well, patreon.com/HooperCast, you can be among the first.
You can catch up.
The only people who see the episode before you, if you're a patron, are me. Not even Dustin sees them.
I don't.
Dustin sees them when you get them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, but Dustin gets them for free.
That's true.
Because Dustin.
I have $1. That's why I have $1, because I don't have to buy them.
Yes, that's true. I just charge Justin lots of time and phone calls.
Yes.
Anyway, patreon.com/HooperCast. Goodbye, YouTube people. We'll see you guys next week. I do want to talk about one more thing that didn't occur to me to talk about until last night when I finished it, but also just now because it ends up tying in that strange way to Inside Llewyn Davis. 1961 Greenwich Village, New York. Roll back the clock 3 years, but still New York, and you've got the marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yes.
So 1958, New York. This is an Amazon Instant or Amazon Prime Instant Video. What the hell is their service called now? I'm so confused.
Just Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. All right. So this is an original series. I was already watching this show when they were nominated, and when Rachel Brosnahan, did she win for Best Actress?
I think she did.
Okay, well, she was at least nominated, if
fact-check
not winning for best lead actress. Maybe it's in a comedy. I don't even know how to break down the categories anymore. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. This is created. Now, this does mean something. Normally, this doesn't really mean much, but this was created by a woman named Amy Sherman Palladino. If you have heard that name before, if that name is familiar to you, it's because, and if it's not familiar to you, it should be. Amy Sherman Palladino also created Gilmore Girls.
Hey.
Created, wrote, directed, produced, all this, heavily creatively involved in Gilmore Girls. Also in Bunheads, which was the show that one of the shows she did after that. I think she was a writer for Roseanne. This is a show starring Rachel Brosnahan. You might recognize her from House of Cards. She was the mysterious call girl from the early seasons of that show. This also stars Alex Borstein, who, if you don't recognize her, she's the voice of Lois Griffin from Family Guy.
Hey, Lois.
Yeah, Alex Borstein. Yeah, and you've also got Tony Shalhoub in here, a bunch of other people, and a bunch of fun. Not a bunch of fun cameos. A lot of actors I've never heard of before, and it's a really well cast show. And it's essentially the plot of the show is Rachel Brosnahan plays Midge Maisel. She's a young, mid 20s housewife, 2 kids in New York City. She's happy. She's married to a good guy. He's got a good job. They got great kids. They live in the same penthouse, in the Upper West Side as their parents, as her parents. Everything's good. And then her husband comes home and tells her he's having an affair, and he leaves. So she's sort of left with like nothing, like, oh God, what am I going to do? At the same time, she sort of realizes and sort of falls into the comedy scene, the stand-up comedy scene of late 50s New York, and finds out, she goes downstairs one night, trashed, and starts going off about her the affair she just found out about. And she gets a lot of laughs. And Susie Meyerson, played by Alex Borstein, kind of realizes that this girl has got something. And so the following 8 episodes sort of follow Midge as she sort of takes on, the early culture of the 60s. I mean, this is sort of the same era as Mad Men that's happening. So if you sort of remind yourself of like the social norms of the 60s and the sort of male-driven social spaces and workplaces and all that kind of stuff, you've sort of got early first wave feminism happening in this show, and you've got it through the lens of this whip smart, extremely funny lead. This show is 5 stars. This is a great show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This show is super hilarious. Of course, you got it run by Amy Sherman Palladino and her husband Dan. So already you have a track record of people who know how to run a show, and to write great dialogue, especially for women and female characters, but also just in really great relatable scenarios across periods. And the dialogue is so good in this show. It's phenomenal. The storylines are good. The character dynamics are great. Tony Shalhoub in particular is a fantastic part of this show as her father. And it's just the banter between these characters, similar to Gilmore Girls, a little edgier because it's Amazon's. There's no FCC. Sure. Is great. There's a little bit of nudity. If you're sensitive about that, it's up front in the first episode. You don't see that much of it, for the rest of the show. It's pretty much in context. It's not really gratuitous. And I'd say even all the cursing, if you're sensitive to that, is it's not, I wouldn't say it's plentiful, but it's also, used sparingly, at least in my opinion. I'll say particular also from a filmmaking perspective, there's a lot of long takes in this show. They're and a lot of long camera movements, a lot of scenes that take place all in one shot. So from a filmmaking perspective, you're super engaged to what's going on in the scene. There's a lot of moving around the room that the camera does, a lot of well choreographed blocking in this show from a directorial perspective. Yeah, Dustin, I think you'd love this show. It's really good.
Yeah.
And especially Rachel Brosnahan especially is great in this show because she's strikingly beautiful, but she's also extremely funny in the show. So she's easy on the eyes. She's engaging as a character. She's engaging as a stand-up, and she's sympathetic as a character, as a mother, as a wronged wife, and sympathetic as an underdog in the comedy scene without being like overly. She's not self-pitying or anything like that.
Sure.
There's nothing like melodramatic or stupid about the character. So
Sure.
it's a fantastic show. So I'd definitely get the first season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel 5 stars. There's nothing wrong with this show in my opinion. It looks they're showing 3 seasons on IMDb, so I'm guessing that means they were renewed.
Yeah, I think it's been renewed.
For 2 more seasons. I think the second season is going to premiere pretty soon, actually, sometime this year, probably in the fall, I guess. I'm looking forward to it.
Sweet.
This is probably the only show my wife has recommended that I watch that was an absolute golden recommendation. This is I probably wouldn't have found it if not for her. So I must thank Mrs. Hooper for turning me on to this show. Great show.
Awesome.
I highly recommend it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I just wanted to mention that sort of on the tail end real quick.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. Why don't we close it out for this episode, Dustin?
I'm good with that.
All right, cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to go on so much about it, but I finished the episode. I finished this season finally last night, and it was extremely satisfying.
That's awesome.
And I'm excited for
I've heard
stories.
really, really good things. I know we so without getting into too much detail, the job that I work, we do a television festival, and that was one of the like gets that we really wanted, so I just heard like all these people like, you have to see this show, you have to see it, and so yeah, I have not gotten around to seeing it, but it is on the list because it A, looks amazing, and B, I've just heard nothing but like golden things.
Oh yeah, it, so. It's great.
Yeah, that's
I really
awesome.
think it's a great show. That's going to be it for this episode of the HooperCast, everybody. So, again, support us on Patreon. Also, iTunes. Oh God, there's a lot of. I've already forgotten all the things we're on. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Castbox, Breaker, Anchor FM, and actually, as of today. Well, of course, so now this is a couple weeks, so, and recently,
as of the recording,
as of the recording of this episode, we're also on Google Podcasts.
Hey.
Yep. So we are everywhere you can find
taking
podcasts.
The world by storm.
Absolutely. We're also going to be doing some audio commentaries pretty soon. Excited about that. And, yeah. And if I can get this open broadcaster software to work, maybe even some live streams that exclusive to patrons. So yes.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, if I can get it to work, maybe we'll see. We can definitely stream the audio. We just won't put up any video.
Right.
Which is fine with me too.
Yeah. I'll just be in my PJs.
There we go. All right, everybody. See you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Woo.